you were aware of the information that you talked about, is it your understanding that Ms. Phillips had left the residence after having an argument with Mr. Phillips?
Overruled. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought I misunderstood the question. Go ahead.
Yes, that is correct.
Do you have any knowledge about how long she was away from the residence after she had left?
No.
We're showing you what has been marked. Well, I'm showing you what's been marked as safety exhibit 61. What that is?
This appears to be a photograph of when I entered the W driveway, and my squad camera picks up the glasses and Lori farther up in the driveway.
Is that a picture of the squad camera that we saw a few minutes ago?
Yes, it is.
Can you identify the timestamp on it?
The timestamp on this is 064030.
Move to admit exhibit 61.
Okay. The receipt.
Ask that it be published.
Any objection to publishing? Be published?
Are we able to see your headlights in this picture?
Yes, you can see them on the right side on the snowbank and on the left side on that snowbank.
Based on what you can see, can you tell us the direction that your squad car is projecting those headlights?
It's in a northern direction, going up the W driveway.
Is that straight up the driveway?
Yes.
And is that Ms. Phillips, or you would discuss, is that Ms. Phillips kneeling there?
Yes.
And is that the edge of the driveway?
Yes.
I want to show you what's been previously marked and received as Exhibit 20. Would you describe this as the same or similar angle as what we saw in Exhibit 61?
It's a similar but different angle.
And did you testify previously that you can see the outline of the white sheet covering Mr. Phillips here?
Yes, I can.
Based on what we've seen in Exhibit 61 and this Exhibit 20, can you say why you did not see Mr. Phillips in Exhibit 61?
Overruled. Go ahead. What?
No. The question I had asked, based on 61 to now you've seen Exhibit 20, can you say in the picture that is from your squad camera that we've talked about why you cannot see Mr. Phillips' body?
It's possible that I cannot see Mr. Phillips' hands or his arm as Lori may be kneeling across both of them, blocking that view.
No further questions, and I ask to admit exhibits I've had out.
I think they're all received. Go ahead. Crosse? Read Crosse.
Lori may also have not been kneeling across Mr. Phillips' arms at that time. Right?
I'm saying that's could be one factor.
And the converse could be true as well, right? That Mr. Phillips just may not be visible from this position, correct?
It's possible.
Nothing further.
Any We redirect? All right. Thank you, Marvin. I'm going to call your next witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Repeat over here.
Can you please state your name for the record if you've not already done so?
Lisa Knutson.
What is your occupation?
Currently,
Currently.
I am a part-time deputy medical examiner, and my full-time job is psychiatric nurse practitioner.
Were you, I guess the way you answered that, have you been previously employed?
Yes, I was a
Okay.
registered nurse in the emergency department as well as in a clinic capacity in 2019.
How were you employed in February 2019? Is that the answer?
Yes, deputy medical examiner and then RN.
And does that require any special education?
Yes, I have a master's degree.
Were you called, or did you receive a call relating to your employment on February 23rd, 2019?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall responding?
Yes,
I guess,
did.
what did you do once you received this call? What call did you receive? What did you do next?
I received a call I received a page to contact dispatch regarding a deceased subject.
What happened next?
I actually was dispatched through to Sergeant Valencia, and he kind of gave me an update as to what I needed to, if anything extra to grab on my way, and then I met him there at the scene.
Okay. When you say the scene, what are your duties? What does that entail? What are you supposed to be doing in a situation like that?
I take pictures, I investigate the scene, go through the area around the body, take care of the body, take pictures of that. Anything involved with the body is what I generally take care of.
So once you were there, I guess, do you know what time you got there on scene, on this particular scene that you're talking about?
You would have to read my report as the approximate time. It was 7:30 something, I believe, a.m.
Were there other people on scene before then?
Yes.
Can you tell us who?
Sergeant Valencia, I believe, Tri-State was either just leaving or they were still there. And there may have been another investigator or two in the vicinity of the house.
When you talk about the, body, generally a body, I guess, did you already let us know what you knew going into this particular situation? If so, can you answer that question?
I only knew that there was a deceased male that had been outside.
And then with all the information that you're gathering or receiving, what do you do with it after the fact?
I have a computer program that's called MDI that goes into, and then I also do a written report as well.
As part of your investigation, did you learn anything about the snow, weather, that kind of thing?
Yes, I need to get the temperature and if there was any precipitation, I get the information from dispatch.
Okay. Are you able to answer if it snowed on this day or the day before? February 23rd or February 22nd, 2019?
It snowed, I believe, 0.15 inches between, I think it was after 2. You'd have to look at my report for exact time.
2 a.m. on the 22nd or 2 p.m. on the 23rd?
2 a.m. on the 23rd.
Should move to strike hearsay confrontation if she's receiving weather information from elsewhere.
Overruled. This is part of a reporting. Go ahead. Part of a reporting.
The clarification I had asked is that 0.15 inches, and you said 2. Is that 2 a.m. on the 22nd or 2 p.m. on the 23rd?
2 a.m. on the 23rd, correct? Yeah, 23rd.
So the night before you got there, or the
night before, yeah, the night before.
Okay.
Couple hours because it was still snowing.
Did you do any examination of the body of Mr. Phillips?
I did.
Can you tell us what you observed?
A middle-aged deceased male with no respiratory or cardiac activity that was laying partially in a snow edge.
Can you describe how the property was set up just briefly? Do you recall how the property was set up?
I do. It was a horseshoe driveway, so it was, I don't know, the west or the east of the each side of the driveway.
Were there structures?
Yes, they're looking straight on. It was the primary residence. To the left of that, like straight down the driveway, was a garage, and then there's another structure to the right of the garage.
Did you go into any of the structures?
I did.
Did you go into the house?
I did.
Are you able to recall kind of the layout of the house or what you observed? Just walk us through the walkthrough, if you will.
It was tidy. There wasn't, much clutter in the house. I took pictures as I was moving through the house. There was a couple things on the counter in the kitchen. The dryer was going, but the washer wasn't. There was a blanket on the couch. The bed was disheveled.
Is there anything you remember about the way the rooms were positioned or anything like that?
I don't without some sort of map.
Your Honor, I'm handing Ms. Knudsen with the marked State Exhibit 34, 38, and then through 43. Ms. Knudsen, are you able to identify those photos, or can you tell us what those photos are? Are they familiar to you?
Yes, they are familiar. They are photos of at the scene that morning.
Did you take those?
I can't be 100% sure unless I saw the number on the photograph.
Are you certain that they are from the scene, though?
Yes.
Are they true and accurate copies to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Ask for the admission of Exhibits 34 and then I think 37 through 43. 38 through 43.
objection?
No.
Okay, they'll all be received then?
Asked to display exhibit 34.
Go ahead.
Can you tell us what this is a picture of?
That is a picture of the red Dodge Ram truck that was right outside the front door of the residence, and the black truck is my medical examiner vehicle.
Asked to show exhibit 35. Or excuse me, 38, we already did 35. And I am showing, the next 2 or 3 are sensitive. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Yes, this is a photo of the decedent, Mark Phillips.
Are there any observations that you can point out here, or anything you would like us to know about this photo?
I guess I'm not sure what the question is, I'm sorry.
So the question I'm asking is, you know, you indicated that you did an examination of the body, or is that true?
Yes, that is true.
Is there anything about this picture that, you know, based on your training experience, that we need to be aware of?
There's discoloration. He's not breathing or does no cardiac activity. There's some discoloration, some from being in the snow and some from being deceased. There's some fluid, reddish in color, coming from his nose.
Asked to show exhibit 39. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Yes, that is the left flank of Mr. Phillips when we rolled him.
The various red marks we're seeing, can you tell us what those are?
The bright red are abrasions, where you can see that the streaking where the bright red is, and then the pink discoloration that is kind of behind that is called lividity, and that's when the blood pools when the body's in that position for a while.
I'm sorry, that's called what?
Lividity.
And you said that was?
When a body is in a certain position for a while, the blood drain, it goes to the lowest source.
Asked to see exhibit 40. What are we looking at?
So there's a couple of things. The pink area is lividity we talked about, and there's probably some cold included in that, and there's some discoloration along the spine.
Did you, as part of your investigation, did you look in the truck?
Yes.
Asked to show exhibit 41. Can you tell us what we're looking at?
This is the passenger seat.
Did you take this photo?
Again, possibly I would have to look at the exact photo number.
Oh. I guess, are you able to, when you looked in the truck, was this, the items we're seeing on the screen, were they already there at that point? Did you move them? Did something happen?
I did not move them. This was the exact spot they were.
To the right there, is there something there?
There is a coat that was partially over it, yes. You can see it from a different angle.
Partially over it. Was that moved?
To the side, yes.
Asked to show exhibit 42. Can you tell us what this is?
This is the door, I believe, going into one of the outbuildings. I believe this was the man cave. I'd have to look at the whole building, but I believe that to be the case.
Asked to show exhibit 43. Is this that same structure?
Yes.
Did you make any observations of the truck while you were taking pictures of it?
Just that it seemed out of place with the other vehicles that were either in the driveway or our vehicles. It was, the shininess kind of stuck out. There was icicles on different parts of the outside of the truck.
But did you observe any signs of denting, abrasion, scratches, anything like that?
No, I did not.
And when you say shininess, you're referring to?
Just, it was shiny. I don't know.
Okay. In contrast with the other cars?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Those are all the questions.
You do it?
Thank you. About your role in this investigation.
Yes.
When you said you had a master's degree, was that in nursing?
Yes, that is.
Okay, so in other words, you don't have a specific master's degree in to be a medical examiner. You have that for your full-time job as a psychiatric nurse practitioner.
Correct.
And you're not a forensic pathologist, right?
No.
So you're not the one doing autopsies or coming to a cause of death, right?
No.
You're not declaring a manner of death, right?
No.
And that role is left to a physician, a forensic pathologist, right?
Correct.
Just briefly, my assumption is that when you arrived on scene, you spent at least your initial time out by where Mr. Phillips' body was. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How much time would you estimate you were out there for?
I believe it was approximately 3 hours, give or take.
Okay. And at some point you went into the house?
Correct.
And was Lori Phillips still there at that point, or had she departed at that point?
I believe she was still there.
There were other people in the house as well?
Yes.
Friends and family?
Yes.
And at least one other police officer, right?
Yes.
If we could get the State's Exhibit. And that's kind of the state of the front passenger side of the truck as you viewed it.
Yes.
And it looks like we have a mishmash of various items on that part of the truck. Is that correct?
Yes.
Looks like I can count at least 2 like foam can coolers. Is that right?
Yes.
And looks like we have some gum.
Yes.
Those appear to be tokens or tavern chips for drinks.
I believe so, yes.
Can't quite tell what that is. It might be a radar detector or something.
Yes.
And various paperwork and other items.
Yes.
All right. And it looks like several of these items are fairly close to the edge of the passenger side of the seat. Is that fair to say?
Yes. That's close to the stitching there.
Yeah. And all right. Appear to be just kind of piled up in one pile there in the passenger side seat.
Yes.
All right. Now, when you said the truck was shiny, is it fair to say that it was a brand new truck?
Sure.
You're aware that the truck was a brand new 2019 Dodge Ram?
I did not know what year it was, no.
Okay. All right, other further.
Any, did you? Okay, thank you, Ms. Shutdown.
Thank you.
Time for another witness.
So, Your Honor, our next witness is Brandon Stover. We expect him to be short. And then that should get us right to around lunch. The witness we will be calling after that, we expect to be.
That's right. Paul, go ahead. Paul, time.
Brandon Stover.
Who was the deputy inside during that testimony? Were you here for that testimony?
So, Deputy Stover, are you asking if he was the deputy inside the house? And
No. Was
Can we get a sidebar?
Yeah, that's me.
Come on up, Deputy Stover. We'll go from there.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Can you state your occupation for the record?
Sheriff's Deputy, La Crosse County Sheriff's Office.
And that's how you're currently employed?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been in that occupation?
21 years. 21.
So were you employed on February 23rd, 2019 in that occupation?
Yes, sir.
Were you called in to assist in any calls that day?
I was.
What can you tell us about it? What happened?
Approximately 6:30 a.m., myself and Sergeant Valencia, my supervisor, we were dispatched to a what was called in as a deceased person on County W. The female caller, which ended up being Ms. Phillips, called 911 stating that she believed her husband, Mr. Phillips, was deceased in a snowbank.
What were your on-scene duties?
Originally, my on-scene duties was to coordinate with first responders in fire, rescue, traffic direction. It's a precarious area there. There's a hill, there's an S-curve. We wanted to make sure all the first responding units could get in and out safely.
When you had arrived on scene, were there other people already there?
Sergeant Valencia and Ms. Phillips.
Did other, I guess, people involved in the scene, did they arrive before you or after you, or were you the second on scene?
I know for sure that people arrived after me. Can't recall if anybody else was before me.
Were you wearing a body camera during this time?
No, sir.
Why not?
We had not had body cameras issued at that time.
Did you meet with Ms. Phillips?
I did make contact with Ms. Phillips.
In the driveway, or?
Yes, sir. Initially in the driveway.
What happened next?
I asked Ms. Phillips if we could go in the house. I wanted to remove her from the scene. It appeared she was starting to become hysterical, and I was trying to console her. I was trying to get her away from the scene. I was trying to care for her well-being at that time.
Did she tell you anything about what was going on?
Yes. She said that they had an argument earlier in the night, approximately 11 p.m. She said she left the residence. She went to either the Baymont or Microtel. At that time, she attempted to book a room, but she believes that she booked the room for the wrong date, so she went to Woodman's. She went to Woodman's to sleep for a short period of time. She said she returned home at approximately 2 a.m. Early that next morning. She told me that they did have a camera system, but she shut the cameras off as to not wake Mr. Phillips. She said she went inside. If I recall, she attempted to sleep on the couch for a short period of time. She then went upstairs and went to bed.
What information were you aware of prior to that?
That Mr. Phillips was deceased it appeared he was deceased in the driveway. And all of what Mrs. Phillips had told me, that was it. That was the only information I had.
Did she say anything other than what you told us that was of note?
Yes, sir. Short of letting her make phone calls and attempting to reach next of kin and friends and family, and trying to console her, trying to provide the sources that the Sheriff's Department can provide her, clergy, chaplain, those types of things. She did mention to me when she left, she believed the passenger door of the truck was open, and she told me, but I did not hit him or anything.
At that time, had anyone suggested to you that Mr. Phillips was hit?
No, sir.
From your memory, is there anything that you can think of that you did to suggest or elicit that statement?
Not at all.
And what was your primary purpose in speaking with Ms. Phillips at that time?
I was just trying to get her away from the scene for her own well-being, to console her and help her with anything she needed for her mental health at that time.
Last set of questions for me. The location of this house, are you familiar with it?
I am, sir.
Can you tell us what town it was in?
Town of Alaska?
Is that in the county of La Crosse?
Yes, sir.
Is that in Wisconsin?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I asked the record to reflect jurisdiction, and that's all.
Any objection? No. Record check jurisdiction, go ahead.
Morning, sir.
All right, so let's reiterate for a moment that your impressions of Ms. Phillips when you first came into contact with her. You noted during your direct examination that she was, quote, becoming hysterical. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Very upset?
Yes, sir.
Crying?
Yes.
Appeared to be somebody who was coping with the death of her husband?
Absolutely.
And did you spend some time talking with Investigator Valencia on scene at all before interacting with Ms. Phillips? I know.
Yeah, it's been a long time. If I did, it was brief. I know in my experience in doing this, it's best to get a grieving victim, we would call her. She's still a victim as well, away from the scene as best we can. I don't need her seeing the stuff that we're going to have to do down the road. So that's really my primary function. So.
Sure. And did you know Mr. Phillips before passing?
Not at all.
Okay. You mentioned you mentioned that Ms. Phillips was shaking profusely. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And one of the things that you did to try and calm her down was bring her back into the house.
Yes, sir.
And fair to say that Lori took some time to calm down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair to say that she didn't truly calm down to baseline.
No, I would say not.
And I just want to clarify the statement here, because you wrote a report documenting your interactions with Ms. Phillips. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And if I showed you a copy of that report, would you recognize it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Here's the thing, Chris, so I don't need my social kind of going up.
Yes, sir. It is my report.
Okay, and you actually capture in quotations the statement of Ms. Phillips attributed, or that Mr. That the state was just asking you about.
Clarify, please.
A statement that you capture in quotations in your this report is an exact statement, right?
Yes, sir. Would you like me to read it?
I will come to the direction here, and I just want to show how the exact statement is.
Yes, sir, but I didn't hit him or anything, end quote.
What Ms. Phillips said to you was, but I didn't hit him or anything, quote, end quote.
Yes, sir.
Now, at that point, she had also described some of the other aspects of her flight away from the home earlier that day. Is that correct?
Sure. Yes, sir.
And one of the things that she told you is that Mark had become aggressive with her, right?
Yes, sir.
That she was trying to get away from him.
Yes, sir.
That he was coming at her.
Yes, sir.
And it was her belief, at least, that she didn't hit him. Is that correct?
Correct.
In fact, she told you that she was just trying to get away from her husband. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, sir.
Any redraft? Number 509, any objection that being received for that?
No, Your Honor, the only reason I had my word is I was going to ask Deputy Stover, but that's no.
Okay. 509 will be received, go ahead.
Briefly, Deputy Stover, did you have a chance to review your report a few moments ago?
I did.
Based on the language in that report, do you remember if you had mentioned these comments to Sergeant Valencia before or after Ms. Phillips had said them to you?
After Mrs. Phillips had said that.
Do you, do you know when the report was dictated to dispatch or when it becomes codified? Do you have any knowledge related to that?
I can go based on based on this type of call, it would have been dictated the next business day. So if this was a Saturday or Sunday, I would have dictated it immediately, within minutes after clearing the scene, and then it would have been typed up by our office staff the next business day.
Okay, so I guess tell us what dictating, to dispatch.
Yeah, dictating is, we used to have the old-fashioned tape recorders, and as technology progressed, we use our phones now. So into an Android phone, we have a dictating software that we just verbatim dictate our report. So I just say what I did and the facts of the report into this recorder. It gets downloaded to our office, and then secretaries will type it out for us. We then review the report to make sure it's accurate with what we've stated into the recorder, and then we codify it, I guess you'd say.
So I guess
Codify it.
So the information, I guess the report that we both talked about now, does that come from a dictation like that?
Yes, sir.
And did you say you do that almost immediately?
Almost immediately when I clear the scene.
Okay. And do you believe that you did that here?
I'm certain I probably would have.
No further questions.
Any recross?
No.
All right. Thank you, we'll step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I move to release Deputy Stoninger from my subpoena.
No objection.
And who's relieved from his subpoena? Can we start another witness for the next 20 minutes? Why don't we, because there's a lot of testimony, let's start. Go from that. We'll end at noon, so about 20 minutes of correct. Yeah. Swearing in right over here. Yep. Before we begin, is the jury comfortable with the temperature? You guys okay? A little cold? We're going to ask them that sometimes we have a problem with our fan that's harder to hear things, so we're going to see if we can turn that off. We'll go from turn it back on here. Okay, what's your begin?
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Dr. Ross Reichard, Reichard.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a forensic pathologist and a neuropathologist.
And does that mean you're a medical doctor?
Yes.
Dr. Reichard, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 48. Can you tell me what that is, please?
It's a copy of my curriculum vitae and bibliography. It's my CV.
Curriculum vitae, that's like a resume.
Yeah.
Can you explain for the jury what training you've had to become a forensic pathologist?
Yes, so after I graduated from medical school in Louisville, Kentucky, I went to the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas and did some of my pathology training. So I studied two areas, anatomic pathology and neuropathology. So anatomic pathology is a general part of pathology where you learn to look at specimens under a microscope, to diagnose cancers, perform autopsies, that sort of thing. And then I also trained in neuropathology, which is a subspecialty in pathology focused on injuries and diseases of the brain, spinal cord, muscle, nerve. From there, I went to Stanford University in California and did another year of pathology training. Then I went to the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, New Mexico with the Office of the Medical Investigator and did a forensic pathology fellowship.
And are you, do you have any board certifications?
Yes.
What are they?
I'm board certified in anatomic pathology, neuropathology, and forensic pathology.
How long, or what is your current position?
I'm on the staff at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota.
And what are your primary duties there?
Doing forensic pathology / autopsy pathology, as well as neuropathology.
And how long have you been doing that?
At Mayo, I've been there for 12 years, and then I was on the staff for 7 years in New Mexico before I moved to Rochester. So I guess starting to add up to big numbers, 19 years. Yeah, starting to add up to big years, 19 years doing that.
So, Your Honor, I will ask if there's any objection to recognizing Dr. Reichert as an expert in the area of pathology.
No, none at all.
You receive or go ahead.
Dr. Reichert, can you describe for the jury what an autopsy is?
So an autopsy, often also called a postmortem examination, is when you do a pretty standard process of examination of an individual to try to understand the cause of death, which is the underlying reason why they died, and the manner of death, which is the circumstances around why they died. And so what we do is we begin with what's called an external examination, so where we look over the individual, do things, measure their height, their weight, that sort of thing, and also examine them for any evidence of injury or natural diseases. From there, we make a surgical or large surgical type incision, called a Y incision, so that we can open up the chest and abdomen and look at the organs in situ are in place. So we're looking to see if they have any evidence of natural disease or evidence of trauma. We also will then remove those organs and examine them and dissect them individually, including examination of the brain, and then we will take small samples of tissues from each of those organs to ultimately make slides so that we can look at under the microscope. So things that we might not be able to see with the naked eye, we might be able to see if it's under a microscope. We also collect other specimens that we can do other testing, such as toxicology.
And what is toxicology?
So, just testing of samples to see if there's any, drugs or alcohol or other things in the blood, in their system.
And where do you usually take those samples? Is there a standard set of samples that you take for toxicology?
Yes.
And what are those?
We typically collect urine and blood. Toxicology, we sometimes collect additional specimens that can also be used, like sections of the liver, for example. Okay, sure.
Now, you've described sort of the process of the autopsy. How would you describe determining the cause of death of an individual?
So there's a couple things to understand with the cause of death. So that's the underlying reason why someone dies, which is, so say they have cancer that's spread everywhere. So they have lung cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer. Then the underlying reason that they died was because of that underlying disease process. A lot of people think about, like their heart stops beating, like a cardiac arrest from, say, they have bad coronary artery disease, but that is really what's called the mechanism of death. So that's the actual physiologic change that resulted in their death. But what we're trying to determine is the underlying reason why their heart stopped beating or they stopped breathing. And so if you have, say, traumatic injuries, for example, say you get shot or something, you might die because you've lost a lot of blood, but the reason why you died, the cause of death, would be from your multiple gunshot wounds. And so it wouldn't be on the death certificate the loss of blood, it would be the underlying reason that you lost that blood, which is the cause of death. So it would be the gunshot wounds as an example.
Now, as part of your autopsy, do you go through everything that you examine or that you discuss, like toxicology, pathology of organs, even if the cause of death may seem obvious?
Yes, I mean we will routinely look at the on all of our cases that fall under our medical examiner jurisdiction. We routinely do toxicology testing on all those, and then we'll take samples of the tissues and look at them under the microscope. And so once we have done the autopsy, looked under the microscope, got those other results back, any other testing we might do, other information we might integrate into our findings, then we will complete the report and determine the cause and manner of death.
And would you describe determining a cause of death as a logical inference based on the observations you've made of the body?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's our medical opinion of why we think someone died.
Your Honor, this actually may be a good place to stop because I'd be moving on to the actual circumstances of Mr. Phillips.
All right, so let's take our lunch break. I just want to get a couple more minutes in so we don't delay things. Again, don't talk about the case. Our lunch should be here in the next 10 minutes or so. If you need breaks or anything else, let us know, and we'll go from there. Again, just to give you try to be done at 4 o'clock today. So if you need to make plans, you know it's not going to go much longer than that. All right, we'll see you after lunch. One thing I forgot to say, I'm sorry. Let's say